the next 24 hours, and that should be it. Let us know if you have any questions. Walt, it's all yours.
Thanks a lot, Michael. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for attending the webinar. Everything you've ever learned about generating leads and growing your business is wrong. As Michael said, I am the Chief Executive Officer of the BPI Strategy Group. We work with small businesses across the U.S. to help you grow your business. Let's say you're a chiropractor and you've just spent more than $10,000 on radio advertising. You spent an entire weekend with an audio crew in your office, interviewing your staff, explaining what you do, and getting the entire production just right for prime time over the airwaves. And after all that work and effort and expense, you ran the ads for several weeks. Your phone only rang 15 times. And those ads resulted in producing just one patient at a income to you of $1,900. How would you feel the energy wasted? But let me ask you this. What if you could take just $1,300 of that marketing budget just by changing what your radio ad says, instead of getting 15 calls resulting in one sale, you could generate 137 calls and convert 37 of those into brand new paying clients, each worth an average of $2,500. And you pocket a cool $92,500 for your trouble. I'm going to show you how to leverage what you're already doing today, how you can get those similar results in your business just by changing the way you do all of your marketing and advertising. And I'm not talking about radical changes, just simple common sense tweaks. There are two main components to any marketing plan: strategic marketing and tactical marketing.
Walt,
yes.
If I could, we're getting some feedback that the audio is fairly poor. I don't know whether you're rubbing into your microphone as you're talking, but it sounds like the audio is choppy, or and your voice is coming in and out. So I don't know if there's anything you can adjust on your side, but getting a lot of feedback from the audience on audio quality.
Is this any better?
Sounds better right now than when you were talking a minute ago.
Okay. Okay, sorry about that. I have had internet problems this week, so that might be part of the issue. Okay, there are two main components to any marketing plan, as I said: strategic marketing and tactical marketing. Strategic marketing is the message, what you say and how you say it, and how to communicate the concepts and the tone in which your message is delivered. Tactical marketing, on the other hand, has to do with execution, such as placing ads, building a website, using email, direct mail, things like that. Every time I ask a business owner about their marketing plan, they almost always come back with direct mail, email, radio, TV, print advertising, the tactical steps. But the key to effective marketing is the strategic side, not the tactical. What you say in your marketing and how you say it is almost always more important than where you say it. That's where the real leverage is. In fact, when a marketing campaign bombs out, the tendency is to almost always blame the marketing medium, which is the tactical part, without any regard to how good or bad the message behind that piece might be. So what is marketing really supposed to do? It's supposed to facilitate your prospect's decision-making process. There are prospects out there that need and want to buy what you sell. Sometimes they need to be educated to the fact that they need to buy what you sell in the first place. And other times they already know what they want, but they need help deciding who they should buy it from. Often they think they might want what you sell, but they have questions and concerns that need to be overcome before they pull out their credit card or checkbook. But consider this. Because these prospects are not experts in what you do, or their exposure to what you sell is low, they really don't know the relevant issues surrounding the purchase. They don't know how to make the best decision. They can't tell the difference between the best deal and a major mistake, which leaves an opportunity for you to provide them with this information and then guide them through the buying process. Here's an example of what I'm talking about. Throughout your life, how many sunrooms have you ever bought? 1, 2, or like most homeowners, none. Let's assume you fall in the group of 99% of the people who've never bought a sunroom. Do you have any idea whatsoever how to buy it? Can you tell the difference between a $10,000 sunroom and a $25,000 one just by looking at it? Now realize that when people need to buy what you sell, they are just about as clueless about what you're selling. So marketing's job is to facilitate that decision-making process. All prospects and customers want the exact same thing, and it really doesn't matter what type of business you have. They want to feel confident that their money has been well spent and that their decision has been made to the best of their ability. They want to get the best deal, not just the best price. People instinctively want to make the best decision possible and not feel like they've got to second guess their buying decision. All you have to do as the marketer is figure out what's important to your prospects. Educate them as to what constitutes the best deal when it comes to buying what you sell, and then show them proof that you actually provide the best deal in terms of price and value. All this has to be communicated to them in a way in which they'll pay attention, believe what you say, and then take action. When this occurs, the prospect gets what they really want from you, complete confidence that they have actually made the best buying decision possible and that they have gotten the best value. But here's the problem. Most businesses fulfill their marketing with self-serving jargon that's only thinly veiled to say, buy from me because I want you to give me the money instead of giving it to my competition. That's why people become jaded, and that's why they resist marketing. They tend to dismiss your entire message. Or worse, they become skeptical and stop paying attention to the message altogether. Prospective buyers want and need to be educated so they can feel confident when making their purchasing decision, and no one's providing it. But here's the good news. The first one who does provide that information wins all of the most profitable business. When marketing is done properly, the end result is predictable. You're forced to cave in, lower your price, destroy your margins, and make way less money than you should just to stay competitive. Consider this. There are actually two sides to your business. First, there's what I call the inside reality. And second, what I call outside perception. Inside reality encompasses everything you do and everything that makes your business great. It's all of your skills, the people who work for you, your expertise, the way you service your customers, and how you support them after the sale. It's your systems, your operational procedures, your commitment to excellence, and it's your passion. And it's the way you conduct business on a daily basis. Your inside reality is all about what you do and what you are that allows you to perform better. However, your outside perception has to do with how customers and prospects perceive you and your company. This outside perception is developed through those interactions that your prospects and customers have with your business. Your customers will draw on their past buying experiences with you to form the perception of your business. But here's the problem. If you provide unmatched and unequal customer service and your customers absolutely love you, none of that matters to prospects if they don't even know you exist. Their perception is that you're no different or no better or no worse than your competition. I would estimate that well over 95% of all businesses are completely clueless when it comes to marketing. And the end result is that your inside reality and your outside perception are perceived to be different. You see, regardless of how good you are, you simply appear to be just another peddler that sells whatever it is you sell. And don't say, well, that's okay, I have a salesperson. And when they get in front of my prospects, they'll be able to close the sale. Well, that's a great theory, but I can flat out guarantee you that even your best salesperson is never going to close a prospect who doesn't know you exist, and therefore never bothers to contact you in the first place. How can you close people who never contact you? Obviously, you can't. That's why your marketing must do the heavy lifting for you. Let your marketing deliver eager, qualified prospects to your sales funnel. But here's even worse news. Competition today is even more fierce than it has been in the past. How many competitors do you have right now in your business? Because that's how many choices your prospects have, and that's how many additional businesses they have to sift through and filter through as they attempt to meet your buying decision. And by the way, the internet has only made the problem worse. Most prospects are so busy these days that most of them start their buying process by researching online. And here's the real sad reality for businesses that advertise online. They spend a ton of time and a ton of effort and money just to get prospects to their website. And guess what their prospects see? The same old lame junk like service and quality and dependability that they saw in the lame brochure before the internet was invented, as well as the same junk that their competitors have on their websites. Business then curse their high bounce rates, and they try to figure out how to get better qualified traffic to their site. The reality is they're probably already getting the traffic, but they fail to realize that it's the website that's not converting prospects, and that's the real problem. Everyone looks at the internet as an end-all be-all of their marketing problems, but the reality is that internet is just another medium to screw it all up with bland messages that do nothing to facilitate the decision-making process of your prospects. You need to have a great website, and that means you better fix your strategic messaging that I've been talking about, or you're going to fail. There's an old saying that goes like this: if you want to know why Jane Doe buys what Jane Doe buys, you've got to see the world through Jane Doe's eyes. The problem is that while most businesses are very good at knowing what she wants, because they aren't communications experts, they don't have the ability to communicate through their advertising and marketing their inside reality to the outside world. They can't lead their prospects to say, I would be an idiot to do business with anyone other than you, at any time, anywhere, or any price. It's been my experience that most businesses could stand some improvement in both their inside reality and their outside perception. But for some reason, they struggle the most with outside perception. In other words, they've got really great businesses. Most of them offer exceptional value, and they have a good inside reality. But when the competition that exists, they have a major problem differentiating themselves from the rest of their marketplace. They simply aren't getting the value of their business across to those on the outside looking in. So what about you? What's your outside perception? Is it instantly obvious what makes you better and unique and different? Do you show your prospects how to judge your industry, what factors they need to consider when deciding what to buy, and how to provide greater value than any of your competitors? Most businesses' outside perception is not an accurate reflection of their inside reality. I told you at the beginning of the presentation that everything you know about generating leads and growing your business is wrong. Let me clarify that statement, what that statement means based on what we've covered so far. Everything you currently know about marketing does not effectively allow you to accurately and succinctly portray your inside reality to the outside world. This is a product of decades of being conditioned to do marketing the wrong way. In the very early days of advertising, I'm talking the late 1800s and 1900s, much of the advertising back then was comparative in nature. Ads wouldn't just say, hey, we're better. They say, we're better, and here's why, and outline the reasons. On the average, they did a decent job of building a case and help prospective buyers understand the important issues in regards to their particular product and service. The result was that the outside perception was generally a pretty good reflection on the company's inside reality. Then came TV in the late 40s. Up until then, total national distribution of advertising messages was extremely limited to radio, print advertising, and magazines, and maybe perhaps the Sears Roebuck catalog. But with the introduction of TV, large advertisers could buy a TV commercial and reach just about every living person in the country for $4,000 a minute, usually sold in 1 to 2 minute blogs. They were typically only 3 networks too, so demand quickly outstripped the supply of commercials and prices shot through the roof. In response to the rising costs, commercials went from 2 minutes to 30 seconds. This meant that advertisers had less time to educate and build a case as to why they were different, better, or unique. So instead of attempting to use shorter ads that highlighted their comparative benefits, advertisers changed tactics and started to use slogans. That change made it harder and harder for companies' outside perception to accurately reflect its inside reality. But remember that marketing's first job is to simply get the prospect's attention. Companies and their ad agencies found that it was a lot harder to do in only 30 seconds, but they also found out that they really didn't need to do it because the number of competitors that could actually afford to advertise on TV was woefully low. They could spend a ton of money running those 30-second ads and win by default. So if it happened to be 2 or 3 major competitors jockeying for the same prospects, like Pepsi and Coke, that was okay because there was plenty of business to divide up in 2 ways. The bottom line is that companies' inside reality and outside perception didn't really have to match up. The lack of a substantial number of choices eliminated this necessity. So the focus for all marketing and advertising shifted simply to getting the prospect's attention. That's when advertising shifted its focus to creativity. The idea now was to get into the consumer's brain with something creative that would stimulate and cause them to recall the product later on when they needed it. That's when slogans became the de facto marketing standard that's still in use today. 15 minutes can save you 15% more on car insurance. Breakfast of Champions, the home of the Whopper. And what about this one? Is it live or is it Memorex? This new creative approach took place, and it soon began to filter into all other advertising medium, including radio, magazines, billboards, yellow pages, websites, everywhere. Big companies opened up their checkbooks, spent lots of money, and gave people no other option but to remember their message. After hearing things to go better with Coke for 8,984 times, you're probably going to remember it whether you want to or not. We call this the era of the brand builders, the 50s, 60s, and into the 70s. It was a no-brainer formula for market dominance and for the companies with the financial wherewithal to pull it off, and that's when it all happened. Ad agencies started running this formula for all of their clients, even ones that were small and didn't have deep pockets. Business schools started teaching marketing and advertising based on these methods that were being successfully implemented by the largest companies in the world. They were churning out graduates who only knew one way to do marketing. Brand builder marketing and advertising became the de facto standard for how you do it. And after a few years, no one even questioned the formula, which brings us to the crux of the problem that we have today. All of us, with no exceptions, grew up in an era where almost all of the advertising you've ever seen or heard is a product of the brand builder era. Over time, we've all become conditioned as to what constitutes a really good advertisement. We learned the fundamental pattern for what to put into a commercial or an ad. We learned about slogans and jingles and being funny. We learned that in marketing and advertising, the outside perception no longer has to reflect the inside reality. Let me repeat what I said at the very beginning of this presentation. Everything you've ever learned about generating leads and growing your business is wrong, and now you know why. And now jargon has started to dominate all marketing and advertising, so you see and hear all this mumbo-jumbo all the time. Since businesses have only 30 seconds to convey what makes them special, they lump everything into jargon, such as largest selection, most professional, lowest prices, seasoned staff, fastest, convenient, largest, honest, experts, etc. We've been in business for 4,218 years. Now listen, I'm not saying that you shouldn't be those kinds of things. Those actually make up the foundation that you want to use to build your inside reality on. But if my marketing says that I offer high quality and great service, isn't that drearily commonplace and predictable? Doesn't it lack the power to evoke interest through overuse and repetition? Does my inside reality really what really makes me good at what I do, does it really shine through? Can you tell specifically what makes me valuable to the marketplace when I say I have the highest quality of the best service? See, you simply can't describe, demonstrate, exhibit, or display that inside reality. It's impossible. No distinction, no separation, and no differentiation. None. You just flat out can't make your inside reality and outside perception match up when you say the same thing that everyone else says. However, let me give you several ways you can easily and quickly evaluate your own marketing to see if you're just blowing smoke. Jargon evaluation number one is what I call, well, I would hope so. When you make a claim, don't think about it in terms of the words coming out of your mouth. Think about it in terms of the words entering your prospect's ears. This will enable you to realize just how absurd most of the words sound. Look at the messaging in your marketing and then you ask yourself if the prospect's immediate response might be, well, I would hope so. Let me give you an example. Not long ago, I saw a TV ad for a remodeling company. Throughout the ad, they continuously emphasized the fact that their work was of the highest quality. It was fairly priced, and they guaranteed 100% satisfaction. Well, I would hope so. Would you hire any remodeler who didn't provide all those as a standard part of their service? Of course not. This is all jargon, drearily commonplace, and it lacks the power to evoke interest through overuse or repetition. Most ads today are nothing more than a jargon fest. Does it tell you anything about these companies' inside reality? What else would you expect them to say? Everyone's always going to say wonderful things about their company if they can get away with it. The problem is, if they say the same things as everyone else says, then the outside perception is that you're all the same. Now you become a commodity, and price is the only determining factor. Let me give you a second evaluation technique called Who Else Can Say That? This is similar to the first evaluation technique, and it's also a product of the era of the brand builders. Start thinking in terms of who else can say what you say, because the answer, unfortunately, is usually anybody and everybody. I know this kitchen remodeler that ran by far the most impressive company in his community. Every member of his crew had 15 years at least of experience. They were all certified subcontractors, had won multiple awards. They were the only kitchen remodeling company that provided a full satisfaction guarantee, but also a 10-year warranty on labor and materials on everything they did. They left the job site every night cleaner than when they first arrived. They also guaranteed they could remodel any kitchen in no more than 5 days, half the time of their competition. This, of course, means less disruption and inconvenience to the homeowner. In short, their inside reality was literally second to none. But they had a huge marketing problem. Their marketing looked virtually identical to all of their less worthy competitors. They said things like certified subcontractors, guaranteed satisfaction, and then a long laundry list of the works they perform, such as new cabinets installed, complete remodeling, and so on. And they accepted Visa and MasterCard. Well, I would hope so. But then ask this question: who else can say that? When the owner of the remodeling company was asked the question, he got really defensive. And he said, there's no other remodeler that can match the quality of work we do. Our staff are far and away the best there is. No one, meaning no one, can say what we say. He was extremely passionate and protective when it came to the company he had worked so long and hard to develop. So finally, to get the point across to him, we pulled up the website of his 5 biggest competitors and let him see what they were saying on their homepage. Let's just say that his jaw hung open for about 2 minutes straight before he finally pointed to the screen and said, oh my gosh, look at this company's website. I know this guy. He's terrible. But his site says exactly the same thing as mine. In fact, he copied my site word for word. He looked at the other remodelers and his competitors and saw that their all websites were almost identical. So remember, it's not what you do, it's who can say what you do. And if your marketing is full of jargon, then sadly, that answer is all of your competitors can. Now let me give you one final detection evaluation. It's called the scratch-out test. Take a look at your latest brochure, advertisement, or website. Now scratch out your name and write in your competitor's name. That's all you have to do. If the marketing message is still valid, if the website still conveys the same basic message, if there wouldn't need to be any additional changes, then guess what? You just failed the test. Most businesses discovered that they run fairly high on the jargon meter. You can find that your inside reality, excellent as it may be, is nowhere to be found in your marketing and messaging, but it's lost in the sea of jargon and completely invisible to your prospects. Is it evident that this might be a tremendous competitive advantage if you could figure out how to fix this for your business? Let me explain how you can follow a very simple process we call the conversion equation. And when you do, you will eliminate that jargon. I'm going to show you how to make your outside perception become an excellent reflection of your inside reality, and finally begin to get the results you're marketing that you should be getting. This conversion equation has 4 main components. The first one is called the interrupt. This is simply a process of getting the prospect to pay attention to your advertising and to your message. This is often accomplished by affecting the prospect emotionally. Sounds simple enough. Unfortunately, it's a lot more difficult to pull it off in real life unless you understand what I'm about to talk about here. The second component is engage. Once that prospect is interrupted, it's critical to give them the promise that more information is coming that will help them make the best buying decision possible. This is also best accomplished on an emotional level. The third component is educate. Once you've interrupted and engaged that prospect, you have to give them information that allows them to logically understand how and why you solved that emotional problem. You do this by giving detailed, quantifiable, specific, inside reality revealing information. This turns the prospect from an emotional sell, and you've interrupted and engaged them based on their emotional hot buttons. This is easy to do if you just follow our conversion equation. And the fourth and final component is the offer. Now, the prospect has been interrupted based on problems that are important to them emotionally, engaged by the promise of a solution to that problem, and they've examined the educational information that makes your solution to that problem real and believable. So the last step is for you to give that prospect a low, or better yet, no risk way for them to take the next step in the process. This can be accomplished by offering a free marketing tool, such as a report or a brochure, or maybe a live seminar or webinar, or an audio or video or something similar that educates them even more, so the prospect feels in complete control of the decision-making process. This conversion equation follows the formula for what marketing is supposed to do in the first place. In fact, at this point, we can simply say that marketing's job is just to interrupt, engage, educate, and offer. Remember, we discussed earlier that if you want to know why Jane Doe buys what Jane Doe buys, you've got to see the world through her eyes. Well, I would submit that if you want to know what Jane Doe sees, you'd better first understand how her brain works, how it processes information and makes decisions. To understand this, there are three major concepts that I want to cover. Three concepts that very few in the world of marketing understand, but three concepts that will make all the difference in your marketing effectiveness and, more important, your company's profitability. The three things you need to know about Jane Doe's brain are downtime, uptime, and the reticular activator system, also known as the reticular activator. First concept is downtime. Putting it simply, this is the hypnotic state of running automatic patterns that allows your brain to perform tasks without any conscious thought. You do it all the time. For instance, have you ever driven to work and when you got there you really don't remember making the trip? That's downtime. It occurs because driving to work is a habitual pattern you do over and over again, and so frequently that you don't have to constantly think about it. Have you ever stepped out of the shower and couldn't remember if you shampooed your hair or not? Your brain performs all of these daily functions with no conscious thought. But here's what downtime means in marketing terms. People see and hear ads with their eyes and ears, but they don't notice them on a conscious level. If you look at a newspaper, you'll be looking at maybe 70% ads and 30% news articles. But because the ads are only seen on a downtime level, 9.9 times out of 10, you won't consciously notice them. All you see is the news, which is what you were there for in the first place. Second concept is known as uptime. This is the brain state of alertness or active engagement. It's like when you're driving down the highway in a heavy thunderstorm and your hands grip the wheel at 10 and 2. Your pupils are big as saucers. You're sensitive and responsible to everything around you. You're in an uptown mode when you're watching a horror movie. You hear the music building to a crescendo in anticipation of something scary happening. You can think of uptime as your brain going into an alert mode. But uptime, when it comes to marketing, means when your prospect is in an uptown mode, they consciously notice your ad or marketing piece. They're open to your suggestions and solutions. Something captures their attention and compels them to keep paying attention. The key to marketing is to get your prospect out of the downtime mode and into uptime. We want to shake them out of their natural subconscious haze where they never see your ad or marketing piece and into uptime where they are fully conscious and aware of what you're trying to communicate to them. Once you understand how to do this, you have the ability to make a lot of money with your marketing. And now the third major concept about how Jane Doe's brain works, the reticular activator. The reticular activator is part of your brain that's on the lookout 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, even when you're asleep. It constantly scans the environment, looking for things that fall into one of three categories: things that are familiar, things that are unusual, or things that might be problematic. When the brain detects any of these categories on a subconscious level, it sends a message to the conscious side of the brain and says, hey, wake up! There's something here that you need to pay attention to. And by the way, whatever those familiar, unusual, or problematic things are, We call them activators. In short, your brain is constantly on the lookout for activators. It's searching for things that are familiar, unusual, or things that are problematic. In other words, things that demand a conscious response. Whenever it finds one, it pokes your conscious brain, snaps you out of your downtime sleep mode and into an uptime alert mode. Let me give you an example of the raw power of your own reticular activator. And please don't get mad at me for what I'm about to do, but I'm going to permanently embed this example directly into your reticular activation system, and I guarantee that you will remember this for the remainder of your life. So hold on, here we go. I'm certain that at some point over the last few days you've seen a FedEx truck making deliveries. Over the 40-plus years they've been in business, I would wager to say you've seen at least a minimum of 1,000. So here's question number 2. Have you ever seen the hidden message within the FedEx logo? Yep, that's a serious question. Did you know there's a hidden message within every FedEx logo? If you're saying right now that's impossible, you've seen that logo thousands of times, and you certainly would have noticed the message in some point in time, then join the crowd. Majority of the population has never seen that hidden message. Want me to tell you where it is? Next time you see a logo, look between the E and the X in FedEx. You will see an arrow pointing to the right. It's as plain as day, and yet very few people have ever detected it over the years. And guess what? That logo was specifically designed that way from the start. It isn't just something that happened by coincidence when the designer created it. Now almost no one sees it, but guess what? Now you will. Every single time you look at that logo. Why? Because now that I have drawn your attention to it, coupled with the fact that you had no idea it was there before, the next time you see the error, your brain will perceive it to be unusual, and that automatically triggers your reticular activator. Now that you know that the error is there, you will only notice it for a second or two because your brain activates when it sees it, moving you from downtime to uptime, but since it really isn't relevant or too important to you anymore, the brain will go back to downtime. So what does all this have to do with marketing? Well, the short answer is everything. Understanding what wakes people up so they pay attention to what's going on to get your message past the interrupt stage and into the engage stage is important. And when we engage your prospect, we've just increased your chances by selling to the people you're trying to engage by 1,000%. This isn't going to solve the problem that every other marketer hasn't been able to figure out, which is not just able to get them interrupted, but also getting them engaged. Not just finding any old activator, but finding the right activator. Any idiot can simply interrupt people. In fact, that's easy to do. The so-called marketing gurus on Madison Avenue do that all the time. The guys and gals prefer to use activators that are based on things that are familiar and unusual because they're able to pull them off. Creativity's main purpose in advertising is to dream up something so weird, so strange, so shocking, so unusual, it'll snap you right out of downtime and into uptime, otherwise known as the interrupt. But here's the key. Here's what no one else seems to understand, and what may be just the most important thing you'll get from this presentation. Once the brain is activated, once it's been broken out and moved into the uptime alert mode, it wants to be engaged. So it immediately and subconsciously searches for additional clarifying information. The brain wants to know, hey, what's all this about? How does it affect me? Do I need to do anything about it? Literally, on a subconscious level, the brain goes on a fact-finding mission. The bottom line is it wants to know, how is this important and relevant to me, and should I allocate any conscious brain width to all of this? So it searches for more facts. If it finds them, it will become engaged. If not, it will go back to downtime and back to sleep. We call these important, relevant issues hot buttons. An activator is something that snaps a person from downtown to uptown, and it's based on something familiar, unusual, or problematic. It's also classified as a hot button if it's based on something that's important or relevant to your prospect. Your best bet is to successfully interrupt and engage your target market is to identify with problems, frustrations, uncertainties, and annoyances that your prospects have, and then address them in your marketing. Their pain, in most cases, is their hot button. And please don't think of this as some part of manipulation. All we're doing here is tapping into the problems that your prospects already have. We're not trying to manufacture a crisis for them. We're merely poking their problems and pointing out those problems so that their reticular activator notices and brings us on to their radar screen. Now, here's one key point of all of this, and that's none of the big ad agencies understand, but one that you need to know to make this all work for you. These activators that are used to interrupt the prospect must be based on something relevant. If not, the prospect will momentarily be interrupted, but will go back to sleep and go back into downtime. We call that false uptime. Remember what I just said about the FedEx logo. Now that you know the error is there, every time you see it, your brain will immediately seek it out because it's unusual. But the more often you see it, the error shifts from being unusual to being familiar. Then you will only notice it for a second or two, and then your brain goes back into downtime because the error isn't relevant or important. This happens in marketing and advertising all the time. Most marketing interrupts, but it doesn't engage. When you find out there's nothing based on anything that's important to you, when there's nothing relevant, nothing solves your problem that you have, you quickly revert to downtime. This is one of the things that probably 99% of all marketers don't understand, and one of the done. But you have to realize that if you have only interrupted that prospect, that's only a fourth of the conversion equation. You've got to include all four components: interrupt, engage, educate, and offer to get the maximum result from your efforts. Now, when it comes to actually writing the marketing, we typically like to portray the hot buttons in the form of headlines. The headline is the first opportunity you have to interrupt Jane Doe. You've got maybe 1 to 3 seconds max to interrupt that prospect. So you'd better make sure that the headline has the activators in it, and that those activators are based on things that are important, relevant to that prospect, their problem. Remember, hot buttons, words and phrases that describe problems and solutions that the prospect is feeling, so their activator latches onto them and snaps them into uptime. In print advertising, magazines, newspapers, yellow pages, etc., the form of the headline is obvious. In radio, it's the first sentence they hear. Google AdWords is the first bit of text they hear. On radio, it's the first thing they see and hear. In brochures, business cards, and other collateral on your company website, it's the first thing they see. Well, here's an example. When I ask most daycare providers why parents should choose them instead of the 17 other local daycares in town, they always give me the same boring answers. High quality, attention to detail. We supervise our staff. We're honest. We've taken care of more than 20 million kids, and so on and so on. Nothing but jargon. And unfortunately, this is the exact same spiel that shows up in boring, ineffective headlines. When I looked at the marketing of various daycares, and they said like the same things like this: safe, nurturing, creative environment, optimize your child's development, acclaimed by thousands of parents and accredited by industry professionals. They were all real headlines from real ads. Jargon and more jargon. But note, these headlines all speak to daycare. They don't speak to the prospect. You could place the word "we" in front of all that jargon, and it would fit perfectly. We optimize your child's development. We're acclaimed. We're accredited. Yada, yada, yada. Platitude after platitude after platitude. Prospects don't care about daycare. They care about themselves and their children. None of those headlines address the problems or concerns of the parents, do they? If you really want to interrupt Jane and John Doe, you've got to use much more powerful language than that to get them to respond on an emotional level. How about this ad? To create a concept of safe and nurturing and creative environment. Ever felt like your daycare treated your child like a number instead of a little person? Or how about this one to convey being a leader in education and child care? Is your daycare an idea of good educational curriculum, watching Barney on TV? Or perhaps this one. This is introducing a daycare center that doesn't consider mac and cheese to be one of the 4 major food groups. All 3 of these headlines work in tandem with pictures to reinforce the powerful and compelling message. That headline that said, ever felt like your child created, or ever felt like your daycare treated your child like a number instead of a little person, next to it's a 4-year-old sitting in the corner with his head buried in his hands crying. Powerful and emotional and compelling and interrupting. See how these headlines speak to the issues of the prospect instead of the daycare? See how they reflect a fanatical attention to detail that is the foundation of this daycare's inside reality? It's pretty obvious. The follow-on engage subhead would simply say, how to ensure your child gets personal, loving, one-on-one attention at daycare. Or the headline that said, is your daycare's idea of a good educational curriculum watching Barney on TV? The follow-up headline that engages says, how would you like your child to be reading at a 1st grade level before starting the kindergarten? These subheadlines clarify the first headline and let the reader know that if they keep reading the ad, they can expect to find specific details regarding each of these major hot-button issues. In short, they engage. And that brings us to the 3rd and 4th components of the equation, educate and offer. I mentioned earlier that every step in the piece should contain a low-risk offer to encourage the prospect to take that next step. The offer should generally be to receive additional information to further educate the prospect and build your case. The real key to success in marketing, though, the right offer allows you to capture a percentage of future buyers in addition to those looking to buy right now. There's an educational process that the prospect goes through from the moment they begin thinking about buying your product or service to the point they actually complete the purchase. Most marketing only caters to those now buyers who will be making a purchasing decision in the near future and does nothing or very little to educate those who are thinking about it right now who might buy later. And here's the problem with all of that. At any given moment, the number of prospects who are ready to buy represent no more than between 1% and 5% of those who are ultimately going to make that decision. So you've got between 95 and 99% of the prospects who are just lookers, gathering information. You don't give it to them. Most marketers only concentrate on the now buyers and forget the lookers. This is where your offer becomes huge. It gives you the opportunity to provide that additional information to the information gathering mode prospects and then capture valuable information about them so that you can proactively market to them on an ongoing basis. This allows you to take total control of your target market. You can capture that prospect's contact information and market them from now until forever, until they make that marketing or that buying decision. You can set them up in what we call a drip campaign to consistently and repetitiously follow up with the interested prospects and keep providing them with additional information until they become ready to buy. And depending on what you sell in the specific situation, there are probably 8 different types of information offers that you can create and offer to prospects. And if we want to dominate the marketplace, you've got to get your offer right as well. And hopefully this is all coming together for you right now. Interrupt, engage, educate, and offer makes up that conversion equation. And that equation is literally the backbone of the incredibly successful marketing campaigns that we've put together. But that's a wrap on this. we've covered a lot of ground. We've talked about your inside reality, your outside perception, and why that's important. We talked about jargon and how that makes everyone sound the same. We talked about uptime. We talked about downtime. We talked about reticular activator. And finally, we talked about how to improve your entire marketing process using the marketing equation. Compelling and successful marketing can provide you with the financial freedom to pursue your real and true ambitions in life. I believe that everybody has a cause that can be more fully pursued and supported when you're financially independent. We have the tools and resources to support and help you accomplish this in record time. If you'd like to know more about how to improve your marketing and lead generation, you can go to the website, bpi-calendar.us, and set up a short conversation with me. And Mike, you have any questions?
Yeah. Hey, Walt. Thanks. Excellent job. Really interesting information. Let's see. Let's open it up. We have just a couple minutes left. If there are any questions, there's a chat window. You can feel free to throw some questions in there. And there's a question regarding the concept of familiar and unfamiliar, and a question of, can it be familiar and unusual?
Is that the exact question? It's kind of hard to answer based on that. But yeah, it can be both. What you're trying to do is you're trying to get attention. You're trying to interrupt them. I'm assuming you're talking about the interrupt phase. So, you try to use a headline that interrupts and gets potential. A lot of marketers use things that are unusual. If you see today a lot of marketers use animals because they're cute and cuddly. It gets attention, and it can be unusual. The gecko and the Geico gecko is one like that.
There's a question of the audio cut out when you spoke about the 99% of marketers are doing something wrong. Can you answer what they are doing wrong?
99% of the marketers out there are only selling to now buyers. They're looking at the people who are ready to buy now. They're not looking at the other they're looking at the 1% of the buyers who are buying now. They're not looking at the 99% or 95 to 99% that are just looking and kicking the tires, looking to make a purchase somewhere down the road. They're not nurturing those. They're not contacting those. And for the most part, they get everything wrong because they just throw things out there that everybody else says, and they're not talking about problems and solutions and results that you need to talk about in your marketing.
Okay, good stuff. Let's see here. Can you tell us about the 8 types of offers?
8 types of offers, they depend on your business. Usually we'll do a free report. We'll do a free, say if you're a web development company, you'll do an SEO check. Look at their website for for Google AdWords, click things like that. Look at it from a potential of doing an evaluation of their website to see what will make it convert better. Checklists are really good. We had a moving company that we helped, and one of the offers we gave was a checklist of 15 things to ask every moving company before you make a decision on selecting one. That's some of them, but it really depends on what kind of business you're in, how we structure it.
Okay. Do you have a free ebook on email marketing?
I do not on just email marketing. No, I think you do, don't you? You or Craig have one, do you not?
Yeah, actually, yeah. I mean, it's your webinar, so I didn't want to talk about my stuff. But since
I'll give you a plug too.
There you go. Yeah, so there's actually an ebook on email marketing on the Sales Growth Hub. It's free if you want to check that out. And then Sales Nexus is one of our providers that has expertise in email marketing. If you want to look into them, they might have some ebooks on their and content on their site. Let's see. Can you market and question at the same time? That's a question.
Market and question at the same time.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that makes sense to you.
I'm not understand what you might want to. If you ask that question, you might want to explain it a little bit more.
Yeah. So if you if that was your question, if you want to maybe rephrase that, can you market and question at the same time? Other than that, that looks like all of the questions. And we're at the top of the hour, so unless anything pops in the next few seconds, we'll leave it there. There's Walt's information if you want to reach out to him directly. Great stuff. Thanks for taking time out of your day, Walter, to present this to us. This video is being recorded and will be posted, and it'll be posted on the Sales Growth Hub if you just want to check that there at any time. And it'll be the link to that page will be sent out in an email to you to your registration email. Looks like so we'll leave it there. Thanks, Walter. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Make it a great day. Thanks, everyone. Take care. Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.